Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Improving People's Prospects, where we are going to be touching on our youth employment and skills programs. I am recording the session today, which is why cameras are off and you will also be muted. But if you do have any Q&As as we go through, please do use the Q&A function that we have available, and we will have some time at the end for any questions. What we'll be doing today is we'll be having some speakers with us. So you can see on the screen we have some keynote speakers. So we're going to be hearing from Jackie Hodgson, our Director of Youth Employment and Skills. We're going to be hearing from Mary Blackwell, our Project Manager, and Craig Drummond, our Employment Programme Manager as well. I'm Laura Farrell-Podesti and I am the Partnership Development Lead for Groundwork North Eastern Cumbria. So I'm going to be your host and moderator for the session this afternoon. And what I'll do is I'll quickly go through how the session is going to run. So if you could flip on to the next slide, please, Rebecca, that would be super. So we're going to have an overview of Groundwork North Eastern Cumbria. So I'll take you through some information about our charity. Then we will go into our keynote speakers. So we'll have the three that I mentioned earlier. We also have one of our local businesses who will also be speaking on the webinar as well, just to give you a little bit of a perspective about how we work with our local business community. And we have a really great video from another one of our employees to show their journey through Groundwork as well. And then after that, I'll open it up for any question and answers that anybody has throughout. So as I say, please do populate them in the Q&A and we'll have some time at the end. So, Rebecca, could I have the next slide, please? So about Groundwork North Eastern Cumbria. So we are part of a national charity federation. So we have Groundwork UK, who is the overarching charity, and then under that we have 13 local trusts, and Groundwork North Eastern Cumbria is one of them, and we are a standalone charity, but we all drive forward for the same mission, which is for a fairer, greener future where people, places and nature thrive. And we have a mission of improving people's prospects. So that's building knowledge and confidence so people feel more in control of their futures. To create better places, so connecting people with one another, with opportunities and nature, and promoting greener choices, so delivering social, economic and environmental outcomes in an integrated way. Now, we do this by running our programs through 6 key thematic areas, which you can see there at the bottom. So we have nature-based solution programs. These are our large nature-based projects tackling biodiversity loss. We have things like a floating ecosystem on the River Tyne, where we do monitoring and look at our biodiversity. We're currently running a wild oyster restoration project where we're trying to revitalise the lost wild oyster population in the North Sea. We do youth programs, so traditional youth work out in our communities. We also have our employment programs, so youth and employment we'll be touching on more today, so I'll not spend too long on that. We have land management programs where we look after large patches of land, so Elba Park in Sunderland and Pegswood Park in Northumberland. We also run energy efficiency programs where we have a team of green doctors helping people who are living in fuel poverty access better tariffs. We install insulation in houses, small measures like LED light bulbs, and that service is increasing in demand year on year. And then finally we have health and wellbeing programs, so things like men's sheds, allotment programs, where we get people who are maybe having health and mental health problems out into their communities, connecting with one another and accessing green spaces. So we are quite a broad organisation. We deliver lots of different projects. So if there's anything that I mentioned there that you are interested in, please drop me an email and I can forward our impact report to you as well, so you can kind of get a bit more of a flavour of the work that we do. But today we are specifically focusing on youth and employment. The reason being is we've recently won some really big contracts to deliver some employment programs. It's also a major priority. We know that unemployment is on the rise. We also know that people not in education, employment and training is high for the Northeast area as well. So we're going to be talking to you about how we're working with different organisations and what programmes we've got in place. We'll also be talking to you about the things that we've done previously as well. So next slide, please, Rebecca. I am going to hand over to Jackie Hodgson, who's our Director of Youth Employment and Skills, and she's going to take us through some further information. Over to you, Jackie.
Thanks, Laura, and good afternoon. I think it is now, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, our youth employment and skills delivery is a mixture of, as Laura said, traditional youth work, and that includes that transitional support for young people leaving school and going into the world of work at age 16. We combine that with youth employment, so we have employment programs that then support those young people further into the world of work, and we also incorporate some skills. We traditionally do numeracy and literacy, the health and safety support for young people to go on to construction work, and we also look at sector specific certificates for our young people to support them as they go into employment. I don't think the slides moved on, Rebecca. Thank you. So some of our projects that we've delivered in the past, and we're going back a long way here, in covering New Deal and Future Jobs Fund. We've delivered Kickstart. The Durham Works project was delivered through the ESF funded delivery that we had. We have had specific employment programs such as New to Nature and the NCS Year of Service. Projects that we've done incorporate mandatory and voluntary participation on our projects, and we work in very much community-based settings to do activity within communities and get our participants involved in that. We support people with confidence, motivation, health and well-being. We do social and green activities with them, and our staff provide information, advice and guidance support whilst delivering on these projects. Within the programmes that we've done in the past and the programmes that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today, we incorporate placement opportunities. So that's working very closely with local employers, and that could involve a couple of weeks placement in a role. It could be volunteering, it could be a paid opportunity with our employers, and we also get involved with employers in an informal way. So we have employers who'll come in and work with us on some activity that we do, and have that informal conversation with our participants, just so that we're exposing our participants to employers in a different way. They get involved in doing sessions around employability, and they'll come in and they'll talk to our participants about the sort of roles that they have available and the sort of opportunities that could open up to them. Through all of that, what we do is we listen to the employers, we listen to our participants, and we want to build on what our participants want to do, how we can improve, and we try and incorporate that into our new projects going forward. As Laura said, we have obtained quite a bit of funding through the North East Combined Authority. So if we move on to the next slide, Rebecca, that shows you some of the opportunities that we've had across the North East. We have delivered for a couple of years now on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and that includes our Northern Directions project that we do specifically to 16 to 24-year-olds. And we are in a partnership opportunity with Newcastle College on the Open Doors North East project as well. We have what we call It Works For You in County Durham, which is a pathways into employment, and that supports the continued Durham Works programme that County Durham have. And we also deliver in the Tees Valley Combined Authority and have a Move Forward UKSPF programme there, supporting economically inactive participants who have health issue, but also those people who are retired who maybe want to get back into work. We have Connect to Work, which is the new North East Combined initiative for delivering individual placement support and supported employment. And Craig Drummond, who's with us today, is going to give you a little bit more information on that later on. And we've also some funding through the Trailblazer opportunities with the North East Combined Authority. We have two programmes at the moment, EMPOWERHER, which is specific to delivery in County Durham, and it's supporting young women who need to we're bringing young women together who have sort of lack of confidence and motivation, who have who want to sort of move on but don't really know how to. So we're bringing those young females together to support them into looking at going into employment. And with Trailblazer is very much a test and learn programme. So we're trying to look at innovative ways of how we can support our participants. EMPOWERHER will be delivered in a prescribed way to a cohort of young people. And then the next sessions that we're going to do in the new year will be more fluid, and they will be working with those young women to decide what they want to do. So they'll very much have their say in how that programme is going to be delivered. But what I'm going to talk to you about in a little bit more detail is our Northern Futures North East Combined Authority Trailblazer. That's specifically to young people aged 18 to 24. And it's working specifically with employers to support young people into experiences of work and to understand how working with our coaches and employers, they can progress into sustained employment. We're looking to support 250 young people, and it is delivered across all seven of the local authority areas in the North East Combined Authority. So what we're looking to do is work with employers. We have a dedicated employer engagement manager and an employer team who will recruit employers, work with those employers to look at what it is that they need. We're hoping to incorporate a little bit of a business ambassador type role for employers, so we can get them to champion taking young people into employment opportunities that we have. And through the delivery, we want to kind of co-develop these employment opportunities. So the 250 young people that we are going to engage with will come on board, and as part of the delivery, they'll get the traditional employment support that we do with our participants before they go into work. And what we'd like to do then is to triage the young people into two of the work experience opportunities that we have. And we're going to trial that in 3 different ways. So we will do the traditional working with your coach approach, where the young people will chat with their employment coach and work out a route into one of the 2 opportunities that they'll be triaged into. We have brought on an organisation called Early Bird, who have developed a online assessment that our young people can go through to triage them into one of the opportunities. And then we are also going to ask the young people themselves, and we're going to look at which of those methods actually gets the young person to where they want to be, which has been the most successful method in getting them to have a positive experience into work. Those experiences, there are three experiences available, and initially the young people will be triaged into 2 of those. The first one is Light Bites. So that is short, sharp experiences and interaction with employers. It could be having a chat with employer online. It could be within a group setting and doing a tour around an employer's premises. It could be a question and answer session with an employer, you know, a meet and greet session that we could have that could incorporate going out for the day and doing a little bit of social action on some of our projects. And the young people involved in the Like Bite experiences can do more than one. So it's aimed at those young people who've never really had any engagement or interaction with an employer, so that they can get used to talking to employers and understand informally what employers are looking for in the workplace. The second opportunity that the young people will be triaged into is Work Smart. This is your more traditional work placement opportunity, and it can be bite-sized sessions in multiple sectors or in multiple job roles. It could be volunteering on a 2 to 3 week basis, or volunteering for 1 day a week over a period of time. And this is aimed at those young people who've had a little bit of employer experience, but are still quite not sure what sort of sector that they want to go into. In doing those two opportunities, the young people will then be supported by their employment coaches into paid work placement opportunities. So that's the third experience that we have available, future ready. These opportunities are paid. Groundwork act as the employer, so we will pay the young people, and then we will work with the employers, as I said previously, to offer a paid placement opportunity to the young people. They will be supported by their coach throughout the work placement opportunity, and they'll also have an employer liaison officer who works with both the employer and the young people to iron out any sort of little niggles or any issues that young people may have as they enter the world of work. All the time we're working with the employer and the young people to help sustain employment for those young people. Now that might be with the employer that they get the experience from, or it might be developing their CV so that they can apply for open market jobs. And we're also kind of looking at Northern Futures as a step into Connect to Work that Craig's going to tell us about a little bit later on. So it's given young people the opportunity to experience different ways into employment. And as I say, hopefully they'll get the wraparound support that'll iron out all of those things that we've experienced over the years. And what we want to do as part of the innovative side to the opportunity is have an organisation come on board to evaluate the programme all the way through. So we have Wave Hill, who will be talking to our employers, they'll be talking to our young people, they'll be talking to our staff to see how we can improve and hopefully get Northern Futures funded beyond March 2026. So that's our Trailblazer opportunity that we are working on at the moment. I'll now hand you over to Taylor, who's going to have a little conversation around how he supported us.
Thanks very much, Jackie. So I'm Taylor Thompson. I'm a manager in PwC's advisory practice. I'm currently based in Edinburgh, but I was previously based in our Newcastle office. As part of the client engagement, we've been asked to support social value initiatives in the region with a focus on getting young people into work. And Groundwork's been really instrumental in supporting us with this. So last month, we delivered an employability session in Newcastle with 7 participants. So we did the first session in Newcastle Library, followed by a session at our PwC office in Newcastle. And this essentially focused on key skills such as employer workplace expectations, preparing for an interview, and CVs. I was genuinely impressed by the level of engagement with the participants. It was a really good session, and they were really keen and really capable as well. So 2 thank yous, I think. Well, thank you to the participants, but also to Groundwork for the work that they do and for helping us to arrange that session and have access to support these young people. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Taylor. It's always lovely to hear from our local business about how you've worked with us and have that great feedback about our participants and our staff as well. So much appreciated, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to a little bit of a Q&A session with Mary Blackwell, who is one of our project managers. So I'll be covering various things with her today. We thought it might be nice to do it more of a Q&A. Just to break it up a little bit. So I'll be going through these 5 different areas with her. So thank you so much, Mary, for joining us today. I'm going to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about your background journey with Groundwork and what that journey looked like from maybe being a participant to working now for Groundwork.
Yeah, so I started in Groundwork, it was about over 16 years ago now, and I came on through an unpaid placement program myself. So I was a single mom, early 20s, not in a very good place at that time, no confidence, didn't know what to do, completely lost. I'd had really bad postnatal depression and was still suffering from some of that. And I remember having to go into my once a 6-month appointment with my job centre advisor and was saying, I'm just lost and I don't know what to do. And they recommended Groundwork. So I came on to play an unpaid placement here, and I was just bowled over by the support from the staff that were working with me. I think the first person I met was a guy called Trevor, and he was so relaxing when he was speaking to me. I thought I was coming in for a formal interview of some sort, and if I didn't do well, I wouldn't get the support. Completely the opposite to that. You know, it was arms open, like really supportive. The Groundwork worked with me during that period. They built up my confidence, made me realise potential that I had that I couldn't see in myself, to the point that I didn't want to leave. So they allowed me to carry on volunteering and supported me to be able to do that. And eventually an opportunity came up as an admin within the organisation. So I applied for it. Again, even though they didn't have to, that my old employment coach gave me support in terms of interviews, because for me, it was the very first formal interview I'd ever had, and was very luckily successful, and then gradually just took every opportunity that Groundwork has ever given me and worked my way up as an assistant coach, an employment coach, an assistant lead, and then a project manager. And you know, I owe everything that I am now to the support that I've had from Groundwork.
I think that's an amazing journey that you've had, and I think it's a bit of a testament to Groundwork, how we say when you first came in you were expecting that formal interview, and it was almost like a really like kind of wraparound care. And I think for me, you know, I don't work in the employment side of things, but I do experience that with Groundwork, and I think that's because we are working within communities, so we identify kind of what people need straight away. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. So you've been on both sides now as a participant and staff member. So how has that shaped the way that you support people coming through the programme, and what kind of barriers do you see participants facing when they first join?
I think it's definitely creating these comfortable environments. So making sure that people know what they're coming into, so they don't think they're coming to a formal interview like I did, you know, making sure that that's laid out. And I think we're all, every staff member is very good at that. And due to the experience that I've had, I'm massively passionate about placements, whether they're paid, they're unpaid. I think the Connect to Works that Craig's going to talk about, employers adapting potentially to people who want to work, who maybe have some barriers that have stopped them previously, is a massive thing. Groundwork adapted to what I had 2 small children, no support, I was on my own, and Groundwork adapted the hours to be able to fit around my bus times because I couldn't drive. And I think that is something that Groundwork are brilliant at in terms of getting employers to change their sort of way that they work, the rigidity that is normally there. And that's something that we try to do on these placement programs that we've got at the moment, Northern Futures, with the placements that we've got there. We're trying to work with employers to look at trying to move out of a potentially 9-to-5 role to fit with bus times, to fit with childcare, to fit with the needs of the young people that we work with who really want to work. And sometimes the rurality of the areas that we live in can be an impact. So trying to get employees to adapt, and they're very, very open to it as well. A lot of them is something that we definitely, from my experience, I push in the projects that I work on. And in terms of the barriers that we're getting, I've obviously mentioned a couple really basic ones in terms of transport and travel. Young people can't afford to put themselves through their driving lessons unless they've got a job, and they can't get a job unless they can drive. And it's that cycle. So, you know, transport can be a bit of an issue, which is what we try and look at. In terms of personal ones, definitely confidence, communication, social anxiety. COVID may have been years ago now, but the impact that that had on young people is still evident today. We still see it. And I think, again, the work experience opportunities that we offer on Northern Futures help to build that confidence up, whether it's a placement, whether it's a taster session, whether it's a day with an employer. Taylor, the work that he did with some of our young people was brilliant, really got their confidence up, and he just spent a day with them, talking to them, you know, and advising them, and that was brilliant. So yeah, I think those are some of the main areas that we see coming through.
And I think that's right, isn't it? Even a day can make such a difference, just for someone to have a completely different experience, and it can change a perspective and a mindset and give you that bit of a boost, can't it?
Yeah.
So I guess you've touched on kind of really how important it is to have those taster days and then, you know, sessions with employers and paid placements. Have you got any success stories that you can share about someone who's gone through a program who's, you know, shown what a difference those programs can make?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first ones that comes, there's two that spring to mind. One of them is a young girl called Sasha, who very, very low confidence. She's actually on one of the images that you've got at the moment in the background. Really low confidence, didn't really know what she wanted to do. I don't think she really had much self-belief at that time. Worked with her coach. We had a number of opportunities that were available in our paid placements. She picked one in accountancy that she'd never done before, but through persuasion and encouragement from the coach, she went for it. They did the application form together. They did interviews with the employer. And just as a little side note, something that we do with these employers is that they will adapt their interviews to suit the needs of our young people. So we do have some people with autism, neurodivergence needs, and the employer will adapt, and that's what occurred here. She was successful, and the confidence that she built up and the skills, she's still there now working, but by the end of her paid placement, she was actually able to attend one of our events and came and stood at the front of the hall and like in front of all of these strangers for her, which was something that she would have never been able to do at the beginning. It wouldn't have even been something that we would have suggested because her confidence was so low. And she's just incredible as to where she is now. So she's the main one that springs to my mind.
No, that's fantastic. And I think even, you know, adults on this call who work full time, we know how nerve-wracking it can be to even stand up in front of a room for the adults. So it's amazing to hear that progress. Absolutely. So we heard from Taylor earlier about some of the work that he was involved in, and we heard some great feedback from him as well. What do you think motivates employers to get involved? Because we know businesses are going to play a big part of our employment programs, but what's the motivation that you find from employers?
I think a lot of employers do actually want to support their communities. They know that by investing in people in the communities that they're going to get some payback from future down the line of these people being able to come and apply for work. So I think some employers do just want to support the people in the areas that they're providing their services to. Some of them actually want to invest the time in training staff up. So as you've got an older workforce leaving, by utilising some of the placement opportunities that we have, they're able to train new staff up in a way that isn't costing them anything really at that time. That they invest their time, but we're supporting with the finances. And I think that helps a lot, especially in the current climate at the moment. But I do feel a lot of it comes from passion for the communities, from the employers that we have worked with. And, you know, and I can big us up and say we're excellent, the feedback's brilliant, but it actually shows in the number of years that we've been working with some of these employers. When I started 16 years ago, some of the employers that were supporting us back then are still supporting us and the people that we work with now. And that isn't to do with them just wanting to build their workforce. That's to do with them wanting to support the people that we engage with. So I do feel that that is where a lot of the employers come from. And they just happen to find fabulous people that we work with. You know, we really do work with some incredible young people who just, their potential is hidden through their own lack of self-belief, and we help bring that out, and the employers in the local areas benefit.
Amazing. So any employers or businesses or partners who might be watching today and are thinking about getting involved, but are a bit unsure about where to start, what would you recommend or say to them?
Just get in touch, drop me a message, drop our head office a message, anything. If you're not certain what you think you can offer, just get in touch, and I am happy to have a chat, because like I said before, it doesn't have to be a paid or an unpaid placement or a volunteering. It can be an hour that you can give to a young person. We have employers who are doing one-to-one interview prep support. We have young people that struggle with group interviews because they've never had one before until they get one, and then, you know, it's not as easy as what they think. And we've got employers giving, we'll do a mock group interview and we'll give feedback. So it doesn't have to be a really long-term support that they offer. It can be short-term. What I'd say is, if this is anything that you are interested in, just get in touch, because we have a number of projects that you could support in throughout the northeastern Cumbria area. So
Brilliant. So what I'll do after the webinar is I will share our contact details. I'll share my details as well. And yes, please do get in touch, and we'd love to have a chat. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mary. That was amazing. What we're going to do now is we're going to just watch a short video. Now, this video is from one of our employees called Satnam, and he actually came through one of our employment programs as well. And he's made this fantastic video to show his journey. So we're going to watch that, just have a little bit of a break. Everybody on the call can have a little drink just to wet their whistle a little bit, and then we'll be moving into Craig's section.
Hello, my name is Satnam, and this is my journey through Groundwork. Before joining Groundwork, I was unemployed and trying to figure out what direction to go in. And then I found a program called the UK Year of Service, and that's what opened some doors for me. Since then, I've been part of projects that really make a difference, helping people overcome barriers to work, supporting young people in reconnecting with nature, and creating safe spaces for women to build their confidence and find the next steps. Each one's taught me something new about people, about community, and myself. And along the way, I've met some incredible people who've inspired me and helped me to grow. I also got to represent Groundwork on a joint project with NCS and CAST. We helped design an interactive experience for youth organisations to crowdsource information. I worked on the design and research sides, and this gave me a whole new perspective on teamwork, creativity, and collaboration. At first, I struggled with confidence and anxiety, especially when it came to running sessions or speaking in groups. Groundwork threw me in the deep end, but with support and guidance, and I started to grow into it. Now, I can plan and deliver sessions all on my own. The anxiety is still there, but it doesn't run the show anymore. Groundwork's been a big part of my growth, and I'm still learning, I'm still moving forward.
So we're really proud of Satnam's journey, and I think I speak for everybody from Groundwork who has watched that video, and we're just so incredibly proud of the journey that he's had, and all that progress as well. So we're going to move into our final section, which is Craig's section on Connect to Work. So he's going to take us through this new programme that we're going to be delivering over the next 3 to 5 years. So over to you, Craig.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. If you could move to the next slide, please. So Connect to Work. You may not have heard of Connect to Work at the minute, as it's still very new, but I can assure you that you will hear about it in the coming weeks, months, and years. So Connect to Work aims, it's part of the Labour Party's Get Britain Working agenda, and it aims to support up to 100,000 people, disabled people rather, or people with health conditions and those with complex barriers, to move into work per year. It's a voluntary program. It's delivered via individual placement and support, or a supported employment quality framework. So in broad terms, there are two elements of Connect to Work. There is an individual placement support, which is very much built around place, train and maintain, and very much a sort of work first methodology. The supported employment quality framework, or SEQF, is very much more around actual real supported employment in the sort of the truer sense and in the older term. That's not something that we at Groundwork are offering or delivering in the North East Combined Authority area at the moment. And so the primary focus on the programme is for those who are inactive, but it will support people who are at risk of becoming inactive if they fall out of work. So the first programme for quite some time, where an element of this is actually for people who are in work, but actually at risk of losing their job. You know, certainly going back to the early 2000s, there were programs that did that, but there's been nothing on any sort of scale that's offered that support to those individuals. And again, as we know, long-term sickness continues to be the most common reason for non-engagement in the labour market amongst the working age population. So this programme really is there to help those people with complex barriers who genuinely want to work, but sometimes don't necessarily have the motivation or need help, guidance and support to enable them to do so. If you could move on to the next slide, please. So the principles of the programme, the programme, certainly IPS, works very much on a work first mentality. So obviously, first and foremost, we will engage with people. Once we engage with them, what we're determining when we first speak to those people is that they are eligible, and you know, that is pretty much a black and white process. But most importantly, that they are suitable, that individual wants to work, has the capability and ability with support to work, and we will endeavour to discover that through vocational profiling with the individual. The vocational profile is a very in-depth process where we are working with that person to really try and understand what makes them tick, what their immediate needs are, and how we can actually work with them to move them into work. And so somewhat different to a number of employment programs we work on, where we deal with people who are very much want to work but need a number of barriers removed first. This is sort of turning that on its head, if you like, where it's about work first, and at the same time and beyond, when we secure the work for the person, we'll continue to support them with the barriers. And there's elements of job matching, so going into the labour market and trying to understand and work with the individual to try and help them secure a job, but crucially working directly with employers. This programme has been put together in the North East Combined Authority area. The model has been designed with support and input from employers. You know, employers have fed back that they, you know, quite often they would like to recruit people, but that person has an issue, or that person will need support. The role of Groundwork in this is to basically work with the customer, but also with the employer, to try and first of all, secure that person a role, but secondly, enable the employer and the individual for them to develop in the role and sustain that role. So the fifth box there, on and off job support, is absolutely critical. So, you know, our offer and what we're saying to employers is, if you take on a customer through Connect to Work, you're not on your own. We will be there to help and support you through that customer's journey through your organisation. Connect to Work is underpinned by something called a fidelity assessment. So it is quite rigorously managed, and the quality and compliance elements of the programme are assessed and monitored by an external organisation, basically to ensure that the level of support and the level of work that we do, both with customers and employers, is exactly what it needs to be, and is monitored and scored effectively, and again with feedback given to us in terms of where we can improve. Again, that's not something that worries us in Groundwork, because that's something we do on a less formal basis across all of the programs we deliver. If you could pop to the next slide, please. So where are we delivering Connect to Work? So in the Northeast Combined Authority area, and we will be leading a partnership and delivering ourselves in Newcastle and in North Tyneside. And we will do that alongside a number of partner organisations. We are also a partner in an organisation called Triage, who are delivering the service in County Durham, and we will also be a partner in an organisation called Inspira, who will be delivering the programme across Cumbria. A little brief bit around eligibility and suitability. So obviously, customers need to be out of work with a health condition or a disability and in one of a number of disadvantaged groups. So a person must have a long-term a disability or a long-term health condition, be part of one of the disadvantaged groups. And for those who are out of work, as I mentioned earlier on, there are two elements of this. The critical thing is around a person's suitability. You know, quite often people come to us and say, yes, I want to work, but for to be appropriate and suitable for Connect to Work, that person really must have the motivation, the desire, and a strong will to really want to work. And then obviously we can work with them and hopefully further down the line with their employer to obviously help and secure them work, and then again continue to support them whilst they're in work. And around about 15% of all of the customers that we will see on Connect to Work, the expectation is they will be in work, but at a serious risk of losing their job. And as I referenced earlier, Connect to Work is a brilliant program because that will give us the ability to help a number of people actually not lose their job. But again, by working with the customer and the employer, we hope and expect to be able to secure either a better future in the organisation for that individual, overcoming the barriers and problems that they have, or potentially finding them an alternative opportunity elsewhere with another employer. If you could move to the next slide, please. So I mentioned about disadvantaged groups. Thankfully, well, you'll be pleased to hear I'm not going to read them all, but as you can see, there is a long list of disadvantaged groups, and certainly experience tells us that when across Groundwork, particularly in the youth and employment programs that we deliver, a high percentage of the customers that we work with will fall into one of those categories. So again, working with a number of people across those groups is something that we have significant experience of. And again, you'll see there's something specific around the young people who are identified as being involved or at risk of being involved in serious violence. So it's quite a lengthy list, and again, we are very keen to hear from and work with and support people who fall into those categories and or who have a health problem or disability. Next slide, please. So how are we measured in terms of our delivery of Connect to Work? Well, up to March 2030, across the programme, not just Groundwork, I'm pleased to say, 13,500 residents will start on the programme. And of these, at least 50% of the individuals who are out of work will achieve first earnings or start a job. And the programme is based on something called real-time earnings. So, as a person works, earns money, pays national insurance, obviously that evidences the fact that that individual is in work. The outcomes beyond the job start are that 40% of those people will achieve a lower threshold job outcome. Broadly speaking, that means someone will work around about 16 hours a week at the national minimum wage. 29% of people will achieve a higher threshold job outcome. That's basically, again, measured on someone's earnings of being around about 37 hours a week at the last national minimum wage. And for those customers who come to us who are already in work, the expectation is that we will achieve 80% of those individuals, either keeping them in work, allowing them to continue to earn a higher threshold job outcome, or we will secure them work elsewhere, where again they will work to achieve a higher threshold job outcome. Next slide, please. And I'm happy to take that's very much a whistle-stop tour of Connect to Work. As I say, it's very new. We have commenced delivering the programme as of the 1st of October, and I'm happy to take any questions anyone may have.
Super. Thank you so much, Craig. So just while we wait to see if we have any questions from anybody on the call, there's a few things going through there that I think I'm just going to quickly pick up. So this is open to everyone on the panel. So is there any specific industries that you think would be a really good fit for our participants? Are you looking for any specific sector skills from any businesses that you would like to reach out or you want to get in touch? Is there anything specific?
Not really, Laura, because that's driven by the participant. So
Yeah.
obviously, until we get a participant and understand what their expectations are, what jobs they want to do, can do, and will do, that's at the point in time that we would obviously start to reach out to our existing employer network and beyond. Again, you know, we have a lot of intelligence around what tend to be the most common occupational areas that we work in, but again, I wouldn't like to sort of prejudge that, because it will entirely depend upon what the customer sort of is aiming to achieve.
Jackie, did you want to come in there with anything?
It will be the same for any of the youth programs. It is very much led by the young people. So what we do with our young people when they come on board, or any participant when they come on board, we will have those conversations with them. We'll speak with them around what it is that they can do, what existing skills that they have, and then we'll look to sort of develop on those. If it's somebody who's coming on board who doesn't really know what they want to do, because sometimes when we work with young people aged 16 who don't necessarily want to go into education or training and do want to go into work, then they don't have a sense of what they want to do, which is why I think Trailblazers, the Northern Futures Trailblazers, is a good option for them, because it's given them that sort of experience of work. You know, I think it's trying to look at fitting all of our delivery around the new deal for the North East people, which is what the North East Combined Authority are very much putting at the front of their suite of opportunity that they have. And, you know, we want to align our delivery with that in order to improve the skills and qualifications for up and coming industries as well. You know, we've got sort of, you know, new industries that are coming into play. So it's kind of working alongside the North East Combined Authority on these programs to reduce inactivity, because it's aimed at economically inactive participants across the board.
Brilliant. And I think that's great, because you're right, there is a lot of new industries springing up. So if we're thinking digital, AI, that's going to be really big in the Northeast. You know, we're also green skills, which is definitely something we're really interested in as well. And I know that's high on the priority for the Northeast Combined Authority, so that's great. So in terms of support for any businesses who are thinking about getting in touch, what would we offer to a business as well? So say they want to get involved, they want to maybe take on a placement, they want to do a workshop. Is there any you know, examples where we've, you know, given support to business there as well?
I can't give you an example of Connect to Work, because it's only been running a matter of weeks. Well, what I can tell you is what we will do is, and the critical thing when an employer comes to us is we'll listen. You know, I think traditionally employment programs have, you know, understandably focused on the individual. And I think certainly from a Connect to Work perspective, this is about sort of listening to both sides. So listening to what the customer wants and listening to what the customer feels they can do, listening to what maybe the customer feels is stopping them getting a job, and working with the employer to sort of, you know, basically say, look, we have a motivated, capable person here. What are your concerns? What are your barriers? What do you foresee as the issues? And then supporting both to obviously overcome them. I think, you know, traditionally, and a lot of employers, certainly the research has shown, have said that when they employ people who maybe haven't worked for a period of time, their motivation is lacking, they lack certain job skills. And, you know, quite often the employers feel that they have to take up a lot of time in dealing with that. Well, obviously what our offer is to those employers is we will help you with that. And again, it's you know, I can't give you a specific example, but certainly the Connect to Work will not work without the support of employers. We know employers face a challenge in finding the right people, and obviously what we believe is the customers that we will take through Connect to Work will be the right people for those employers. And you know, nothing's perfect in the unperfect world that we live in. So we do anticipate issues, we do anticipate problems, but obviously our role within Connect to Work is to support the employer through that.
Brill, thank you. And then just one last question. So obviously we collect data in terms of how many people are participating in our programs, if they're entering the job market, how successful that is. But what other metrics do we collect in terms of the impact that these projects have on not just the participants, but also on the businesses? Is there anything else that we collect to kind of evidence that real positive impact that's happening?
From a Connect to Work perspective, Laura, it's probably too early to say, but obviously the critical factor in this is around people sustaining those jobs. So as I shared, we have very stretching output targets. So, the person has to be there for a certain, has to earn a certain amount of money over a certain period of time to achieve those outcome thresholds. And that's only going to be possible if that individual remains in that job. So obviously, but we obviously have to balance that against the needs of the individual and obviously the needs and wants of the employer as well. So time will our success factor critically will be the achievement of those outcomes. And again, one of the things that we are always, very keen to do in Groundwork across all our programs is listen to employers. I think employers potentially haven't been listened to perhaps enough, and to flag things that, maybe funders particularly haven't necessarily looked at. I can assure you there was a lot of time and energy went into the planning and inception of Connect to Work through various employer groups to do just that.
Brilliant. Anything else to add from the other members of the panel?
I think in terms of Northern Futures, we are actually measured on giving information, advice and guidance to employers. So it's part of our project is to go and speak to employers, to listen to what difficulties, similar to what Craig was saying, are having and how we can maybe support with that, if it's in terms of recruitment, advertising, marketing, if it's certain age groups that they're struggling to recruit, things like that. So that is something that we are constantly monitoring and getting feedback on from employers. And then, as Jackie's already mentioned, we do actually have an evaluation team who are there specifically to listen and hear how we are working, to almost monitor ourselves working with employers. So they will be speaking to the employers as well to get feedback on the support that we've given them.
I think, sorry,
Brilliant.
Laura, one last thing. We are an employer ourselves. And I think when you think about, and many of us, Mary, Jackie, myself, are direct employers, and people are people. We're not perfect. We have problems. We have issues. And I think as an employer, to have an organisation that you could go to sort of reach out for help and support and say, look, there is an issue here. How can you help us with this? I think it is absolutely amazing. And again, with our track record of working successfully with employers, I think that's a brilliant match. And, as the programme develops, I look forward to that working really, really well.
In addition to that, we, as Craig mentioned, for Connect to Work and in what we do, if we are managing a project, we make sure that we understand what other delivery is available within the area that we're working in, whether that be in the North East Combined Authority, whether that be over in Cumbria or Tees Valley. We very much work collaboratively with other organisations, and part of Connect to Work is built on us leading a partnership of delivery. So we will be looking at how that partnership is working. We'll be looking at what added value the partners can have to our delivery. A lot of what we have to do is around social action and social value. So we will be incorporating that into our delivery, and we want to get employers involved in that as well. So we want employers to come on board and understand how, if they can't, as Mary was saying before, if they can't actually, for whatever reason, have the opportunity to give somebody a paid placement opportunity, then there are other ways that they can support us. And even if that is just half an hour or an hour of their time, even if that's just an employer giving us a kind of like overview of what their role is or what their job does, or if we've got something as I said at the beginning, we have traditional youth work. We've got young people going out. We've got youth workers going out and working with young people and doing youth sessions and doing social action and developing the community that we are in, that we're working in. And if we can get employers to come along and support that, that can be measured, and that can be shown the difference that we're making within communities with the people that we're working with, because that's what we want to do. That's our goal, and really, isn't it? Working with people and communities to improve everything, not just the work side of things.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. Rebecca, can you just pop up the last slide on there? That's brilliant. So I'm going to draw the session to a close. Thank you to all our keynote speakers today. If you do want to get in touch, if you do want to find out more, my email address is on there, so please do reach out. Or you can visit our website and there's a contact us form, and we can certainly direct you to Jackie, Craig, Mary to speak more about those programs and how you can get further involved. There is a QR code on there for our impact report, so if you want to view that to see some of our other projects, and there is just a little follow-up form on there which I'll be sending out after the webinar as well, just to capture any feedback and any questions that we didn't get round to answering. So thank you so much for your time today, everybody that joined, and thank you so much to our panel.